All right, I'm here with Dr. Charmaine Matthews, who is a psychology professor, teaches now in Arizona, formerly in Chicago, is a singer, and went to Kenwood Academy at the same time that Robert Kelly did. And maybe, Char, that's the place to start.
Yeah, Robert and I shared about a year or two in the choir with Miss McLin, and definitely enjoyed not only her musical expertise, but in my experience, a mentor and a model as a strong African-American woman who was really doing things in the music industry.
Yeah, a real legend in Chicago and in music generally.
Absolutely.
What were your perceptions of Kelly as a high school aspiring singer?
I think it was pretty clear to most of us who interacted with him and some of our other fellow choir members that there were people who, while we all enjoyed music and learned a lot from Miss McLin, that there were people who had lots of musical skills and who were going places within the music industry, Robert being one of them, and a couple of other of our choir mates who have since then, taken music in a professional direction. And are making excellent careers and making their mark in the music industry. And it was pretty clear, even in high school, that he was one of those people that would be going that direction.
When did you become aware of some of the more troubling aspects of Kelly's life?
I guess it wasn't terribly apparent until, obviously, the trial related to the sexual misconduct with the teenage girl came about. To that point, I didn't know much about anything that was going on, but that kind of blew the lid off of everything and made myself and obviously other people who had known him as an individual as well as respected him as a musician, sit up and take notice and go, hey, what's going on here?
Was it disturbing?
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely disturbing. Again, this is somebody who you respect as a musician, you appreciate their skills and their talents, you like their music, and then you see this sort of thing happen and you go, I'm a little, I don't know what to make of this. It's very disturbing.
Char, one of the things that struck me early on in this story, the Sun-Times interviewed Lena McLin. And she said, when Robert would come back to my class, there was never any hanky-panky. I don't know what goes on in private, though, but I will say it takes two to tango. It seemed like a disturbing comment.
I would find that comment disturbing as well. Not surprising, though. Both from the perspective of a counselor and the perspective of a woman, this is often the way people think, men and women both, in the context of sexual misconduct, that, regardless of the age of a woman, whether it's a teenage girl or, in this case, or even adult women, that somehow people put themselves in a position to be assaulted, or that they did something to bring that about, or are somehow contributing to the situation.
That's that horrible mindset of they were asking for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking as a psychologist, how does an adult male justify to himself having sexual relationships with an underage woman?
That's a tough question. I think some of it, again, goes back to what we were just talking about, and that's this idea that somehow she has said or done something that gives him a green light to behave in that way. Furthermore, I think that to some degree the business of celebrity gives a person a sense of license, right? And so that I'm above certain behavioral expectations or laws, and so that I can do things and make choices that I'm not going to be held accountable for, or that I'm somehow not responsible for because of my position of celebrity.
Why do you think someone would want to videotape these acts?
uh, for many people, it's kind of a trophy sort of thing. And also, of course, the videotape then gives a person a chance to go back and relive and reenact those things, if nowhere else but in their own minds. And I think the combination of those things, kind of this trophy sort of feel that, it gives me some memento of the behavior and of the situation, as well as the opportunity to use it to go back and relive those things later.
It doesn't sound like you're describing a relationship period. It's like a conquest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's my perception of the situation.
How prevalent is this business of older men seeking out underage girls in society?
While I can't tell you specific statistics, I can tell you that in my work as a counselor, I've seen many young ladies who have been in that situation at some point in their lives. And so, at least in my experience, and not only my work as a counselor, but just even in my friendships and personal relationships, I've seen many young ladies who have been, I'm going to use the word victim, the victim of these situations. So I think it's more prominent or more prevalent than people would want to admit. It seems to happen quite frequently from my experience, again, both professional and personal.
And to be clear, I've had to learn so much more about this stuff than I've ever wanted to. There is a difference between pedophilia, which is adults having sex with children, and a Febiophilia, which is adults having sex with teenagers.
Psychologically, there is a difference. It's definitely a different mentality, a different mindset. The impact this has on the young people, I think, is equally horrific. And of course, the legal ramifications for both, to my knowledge, there isn't a distinction in the legal system. I'm not a lawyer, but to my knowledge, there isn't. But definitely psychologically, it's a different mindset.
Do you think society as a whole is more accepting of older men having sex with younger women than it is older men having sex with children?
I think so. And again, I think that what contributes to that is the misconception that somehow once a girl reaches a certain age or maybe post-puberty, that because physical characteristics of that young lady may look as mature as an adult woman, that somehow she's making a choice that then contributes to or even seeks out this type of act on the part of these adult males.
Speaking as a counselor who's worked with so many teens, what are the lasting ramifications of having had a relationship like this for young women?
Interestingly, most of my experience has actually not been with teens, but it's been with adults who had these experiences as teenagers. And the impact, in my experience, is devastating. I've seen young ladies as recently as a year or so after something like this has happened, 18, 19-year-old girls, and I've seen women decades after this has happened. Women old enough to be my mother, decades after this sort of thing has happened. And what I see is that there's this lasting effect on things like self-esteem, self-worth, but also sometimes some serious diagnoses, things like depression, various anxiety disorders, even post-traumatic stress disorder. So there's definitely this lasting effect that I said in some cases lasts for decades.
Yeah, serious scars.
Absolutely.
Are there girls who are more at risk of being seduced into these kind of relationships than other girls?
Individuals who don't have a lot of support around them. And so young ladies who may not have, father figures in their lives. And not to say that everyone who doesn't will be victim to this, but this could increase the likelihood. Young ladies who already have a lower level of self-esteem and who are, in some senses, looking for a way to feel valued and important are more likely to.
I think one of the most horrifying quotes I got in my reporting, it's told me that night after a concert, there would be a room full of gorgeous young women, and all of legal age, all of them eager to be with him. And there was one tiny little girl every night in the corner, staring at her shoes, you know, ashamed of her acne. And night after night, that was the girl he would seek out.
Right, and so much like I've described, seeking the person who maybe has a lower sense of self-esteem, a lower sense of self-worth, who is, for lack of a better word, easy picking.
Yeah. All right, shift back, Shar, if you would, to your position as a music lover, as a proud Chicagoan, as a singer, as another successful student of Lena McLin. Does that make the tragedy all the more worse that Kelly had these relationships one after another after another? You know, he was tried, he was acquitted. But it has to tarnish the hero in some ways, no?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Again, as I said, many of us kind of saw Robert, even at high school, as a person who would be successful in the music industry, along with a few of our other peers. And to see so many of them doing wonderful things and moving forward in positive ways, and then to see this kind of negative outcome for someone like himself definitely tarnishes the hero, tarnishes the image that I think many of us saw in R. Kelly before that.
Well, stemming from that, I spoke at length about race with Mark Anthony Neal, the great scholar of African American studies. What does it say to you that certain white hipsters, for lack of a better word, you know, Bonnaroo Festival, Pitchfork Festival, are embracing Kelly, in part specifically because of his reputation?
To me, that's quite disturbing. Again, disturbing but not surprising. And for me, I think what we have to realize is that as long as there is a consumer for a product, then someone will continue to create that product. So if promoting this stereotype of, you know, an oversexed black man makes him money, he will continue to do it. And so I think that this white hipster crowd has a responsibility to really ask themselves, is this what I want to promote by putting my money there?
Yeah. Where do you think young white women, who not all that long ago were the same age as these young black women that Kelly is accused of having had relationships with, where do you think their minds are at? Are they thinking about any of this?
I would guess not. And the reasons I'm guessing not are because, again, there's something about celebrity privilege. You know, particularly having been acquitted of these crimes, it's kind of like we forget so quickly. Because, of course, we know being acquitted doesn't mean something didn't happen. But being acquitted of these crimes, people forget so quickly the accusations, forget the victims, and particularly when the victims are people you don't necessarily identify with. And so if this crowd of, or this population of young white women can't identify with or don't identify with the population of what were his victims, it would be easy for them to forget that these sort of things happened and focus on the music and on the image that he's portraying today without any regard to those things.
Does it send a bigger message to society when someone is acquitted of the sort of things that Kelly was tried for, that this behavior, you know, can continue?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, his case is a popular one, an infamous one, but this sort of thing happens in our culture more than we would like to admit to ourselves, where crimes, sexual crimes against, underage girls as well as adult women go unpunished. And it absolutely does send a message that says these sort of things are at some level acceptable.
From your expertise in general, does the ephebophile, does the pedophile stop their behavior?
This is one of the categories of behavior that is very difficult to change. Not impossible, but difficult. And definitely, unless a person makes some conscious effort to get the help they need to change that behavior, it's not going to just change.
That's a really scary thought.
Yeah, quite.
Do you have any final thoughts, Doctor, on this situation? I mean, as a journalist, as a critic, as a journalist who reported on this story, as a critic who's had to think about this music, I'm left with more questions always than answers. Am I only adding to the problem by even having these discussions? I don't think so. I think these discussions need to be had. But, I'm going to have to go and review that concert in Union Park. And boy, do I have conflicted feelings about it.
Sure. I too have some conflicted feelings about the fact that this music, and more importantly, the image that is created around the music, is so popular. I think that we as people need to ask ourselves, do we want to promote this sort of thing? It devalues women, and also, from the perspective of the African American community, it continues to perpetuate this stereotype of African American males as some type of oversexed person, which is just not realistic. And so, to promote music that both devalues women and promotes a stereotype of the African American male is really disturbing to me. And I think that anybody who chooses to be a consumer of this music has to do so from a point of being informed and knowing that this is what they are promoting.
We should add here, Doctor, that you sing in church, but your husband makes house music of the old school Chicago variety. Your boys, your sons, are rappers.
Yes.
You are by no means a musical prude.
Oh, definitely not. I love music in every variety and every type. Absolutely.
Yeah, but these problems linger.
Absolutely. I agree.
Well, thank you, Doctor. This has been incredibly illuminating.
Well, thank you. It was good to talk with you.